All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Sophia. I'm the outreach coordinator at ERTC.
My name's Sydney Butler. I'm a staff attorney with ERTC.
So today we're going to be walking you guys through what you should know when it comes to repairs when you're renting a property. All right. So just a little bit about us. So ERTC, sorry, which stands for Eviction Right to Counsel, is a partnership between Legal Aid Society of Middle Tennessee and the Cumberlands and the National Hispanic Bar Association, NHBA, the American Muslim Advisory Council, or AMAC, and the Nashville Conflict Resolution, which is NCRC, and Rooftop Nashville. So essentially, we provide free legal services and information to people who are facing evictions or other housing-related issues in Davidson County. Our services range from legal advice to full representation in court, and we also do community outreach and teach people about how to avoid evictions and what they should do when they're renting. So quick recap on responsibilities, because our last webinar was about tenant and landlord responsibilities. So I'm just going to go quickly run through those. So landlord responsibilities include keeping the unit safe and livable, making sure that the common areas are clean, and making timely repairs listed in the lease, which we're going to get into in a little bit. Tenant responsibilities, keeping the home clean and sanitary, reporting any repair issues, again, we'll get into that, using appliances and systems properly, and avoid causing damage beyond wear and tear. And it's important to always check your lease because some repairs might be your responsibility, but it's also important to know, to make sure that you're not making repairs that are actually your landlord's responsibility. So I have an example here. You might be responsible for fixing a clogged sink caused by hair or some sort of dropped item, or repairing damage you caused to like a broken window. But if it's something that is beyond your control or that you didn't purposely damage, then it's usually your landlord's responsibility. For example, if your electricity stops working or you don't have any hot water. So, and then Sydney's going to walk us through asking for repairs.
So first, and you're going to hear me say this a lot, the main thing that you need to make sure that you do when you're requesting repairs is to always make the request in writing. Even if you're in subsidized or public housing where they say just to call and put the request in that way, still put it in writing because they are maybe putting their work orders in when you call, but they might not be. And so you want to have proof on your end that you made those requests. The request can be made by writing a letter, by emailing them, or by texting them. But then you should also go through whatever process that they require, if that's, submitting something through your portal or calling them. So your request should include a few things. It needs to include the date of your request. That's mostly for your records, and a clear explanation of the repair that you need. So for example, if you need your air conditioning fixed, you should email, write a letter, or text them that on September 4th, your air conditioning broke and that you need that fixed as soon as possible. If there's pictures, like if it's a leak or something, you can also include those. And anything that you are requesting, you should also keep a good archive of that. Keep those requests and pictures in somewhere safe in case it ever gets to the point where that you need to sue them or break your lease. So there's two types of repairs. Obviously, you've got your emergency repairs and your non-emergency. Emergency repairs are going to be those that need to be resolved immediately to prevent health and safety issues. This could be a gas leak, a flood, if your heater stops working during freezing weather. Those are all things that you need to call that emergency line to get fixed. And if they don't repair it right away, then you could call the emergency lines. Some non-emergency repairs are things like a hole in your wall or your blind's not working. So those that you're going to go through the normal processes to request those repairs, keep the records like we talked about, and give your landlord about 14 days to make those repairs.
Yeah, and later in the slide, we'll talk about who to call when you're facing emergency repairs.
So like I just said, if it's not an emergency, then your landlord should respond within 14 days. That 14-day notice is what we're required legally to give your landlord the opportunity to. If they haven't fixed it after that, then you have other options such as breaking your lease. But if there's emergency repairs, obviously those need to be fixed as soon as possible for your health and safety. So the landlord should respond within 24 to 48 hours.
Okay,
So
next we have oh, sorry, Sydney. Sydney is also going to walk us through legal protections for tenants.
So, along with the fact that you always need to make your requests in writing, you also need to not stop paying rent, even if your landlord isn't making repairs. There is a lot of information out there on the internet that you can withhold your rent, but I would not recommend ever withholding your rent unless you've talked to an attorney first, because that could lead to your landlord filing an eviction against you for not paying rent, and they likely would win. So what do you do if your landlord isn't making the repairs? So if they're not making it within a reasonable amount of time, you might have options, but before taking any steps such as breaking your lease or withholding rent, you can call ERTC and we can give you some more specific advice based on your situation. So your options are, first, you could break your lease and move. You have to have given 14-day notice in writing that repairs need to be made before you can break your lease, which is why we say and emphasize that the repair requests need to be in writing and you have to give them 14 days before you can do that. Then the law will allow you to break your lease without any early termination fees. And if they try and charge you early termination fees, then they would have to go to court to charge you those, and then you would have a good defense that because they weren't making those repairs, you could have broken your lease. Your other option is to take legal action, which would be to sue your landlord. ERTC usually does not have the capacity to bring these affirmative suits against landlords, but we're always happy to give instructions on how to file a lawsuit against your landlord in general sessions in Davidson County. And the process is pretty user-friendly, and it's a lot of people will do it without attorneys. So withholding rent, like I said, do not withhold your rent unless you talk to an attorney. There is a very limited cases when the law does allow you to withhold your rent. And this is usually when the landlord isn't making repairs to something that provides an essential service, which is water, gas, and electricity. It can sometimes be air conditioning, but that depends on the circumstances. The law doesn't explicitly say that air conditioning is an essential service, but when it's 90 degrees out, there is sometimes an argument that is an essential service. And what the law says when they're not providing these essential services is that you can either deduct the costs that it takes to get other housing, like if you had to go to a hotel, you could deduct your hotel costs or have your landlord pay for your hotel. But if your landlord offers to pay for your hotel because your water isn't working for 2 days and they pay for those 2 days of hotels, you are still going to be responsible for your rent.
Okay, so who do I call for help? So who would you call for help in the situation that you have an emergency repair and your landlord isn't responding, or it's so critical that you need help immediately? So if your home is unsafe, you can call Metro Codes. If your home is unhealthy, you can call the Metro Health Department. And I don't know, Sydney, if you want to kind of make the distinction between unsafe versus unhealthy.
Yeah, so unsafe would be if you've got some boards that are missing that might cause the ceiling to fall through or something. Unhealthy would mean if you have an infestation, if you've got roaches or mold in the property, then that's when you would call the health department.
Again, so if your landlord isn't making repairs or you need help requesting any repair or have any questions about repairs, you can always call ERTC. You can also contact the Nashville Hispanic Bar Association if we are at capacity or they also help with the same thing. So, and then if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we will try to answer them during the webinar, or send out an email after. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.